Thank you, Mary. Good morning to all of you joining us here in the chapel and on YouTube. We're especially glad to have those of you who may be with us for the first time and hope to see you again soon. I'm Jeanne Mooney, your worship leader, and storyteller extraordinaire Will Hornyak is with us today. I'd like to remind everyone now would be a good time to silence your cell phones or any other devices. I always tell Siri to put my phone in Do Not Disturb. It works every time. Eastrose Fellowship sits on the occupied territory of the Clackamas Chinook people, who were forcibly displaced from this land in the Grand Ronde Reservation in 1855. We acknowledge the sacrifices endured by the ancestors of this land, and that our presence here today is only possible because of the injustices committed against them. We recognize the inherent sovereignty of the Chinook Nation and the Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde, who carry on the traditions, history, and legacy held by their ancestors from time immemorial to this day. We seek meaningful relationships with these communities that foster repair. Let's take a moment now and greet each other here today, both in the chapel and online. So you can start, stand up and look to the back, wave of everybody who's online. Reading this morning, our call to worship is Labyrinth by Leslie Takashi. Walk the maze within your heart. Guide your steps into its questioning curves. This labyrinth is a puzzle leading you deeper into your own truths. Listen in the twists and turns. Listen in the openness within all searching. Listen. A wisdom within you calls to a wisdom beyond you, and in that dialogue lies peace. For a chalice lighting, I am going to read A Tapestry of Souls by Jamie Yandel. We light this chalice to ignite the divine spark of the universe, whose pronouns have always been plural, a co-creation of brilliance and diversity, a tapestry of souls perfected. Opening words are from Sam Trumbore, Go Forth in Simplicity. Go forth in simplicity. Find and walk the path that leads to compassion and wisdom, that leads to happiness, peace, and ease. Welcome the stranger and open your heart to a world in need of healing. Be courageous before the forces of hate. Hold and embody a vision of the common good that serves the needs of all people. Now, please rise as you are willing and able in body or spirit to sing number 38 in the gray hymnal, Morning Has Broken. The words will be on the screen. Thank you all. That was so beautiful. Now it's story time for all ages, and Will has a story, a Russian folk tale, Ivan's Sled.
Hi. Come on up. Good morning. How you doing? Good morning. This is a story for children and the inner child within us all. How are you guys doing today?
Good.
Good. Did you want to hear a story?
Yeah.
Good. I was hoping you'd say that. Good. Help me out here. Ready? Count down with me. Ready? All together. 5, 4, 3, 2, once upon a time. Once upon a time in Russia, there was a village of farmers. They were wheat farmers. And in this particular village, it was in a place in Russia that was always cold. The winter came early, it stayed late. And in the village, there was a farmer whose name was Ivan. And one day, Ivan, he said to his son, whose name was Dmitri, he says, Dmitri, go and fetch the sled from the barn. Fetch the sled from the barn because it is grandfather's time to die. And Dmitri, he went to the barn and he fetched the sled. And when he came back, his father, Ivan, was with grandfather. Grandfather was old. He could barely see. He was very, very, very old. And they put grandfather on the sled. And they pulled him out of the village. They pulled him across and through the cultivated fields, all the way out into a deep, deep, deep forest. Took a long time to get there. And then Ivan said, "My son, this is our custom in the village. When the people are so old, they can no longer care for themselves, feed themselves, fend for themselves, we bring them out to the woods. He will die in his sleep, the cold will take him, and then he will become food for the bears and the wolves and the ravens and the crows." And so they left grandfather there, and they turned to leave. They hadn't gone a few steps, and Dmitri, the boy, he said, "Father, shouldn't we at least go back and get the sled? Because won't I need it someday to take you into the woods to become food for the bears and the wolves and the ravens and the crows?" It was a thought that stopped Ivan in his tracks. And then he turned and he looked at his father. His father shivering in the cold. It touched his heart. He began to weep. And he said, "Dmitri, tell no one what we are about to do, for it is against the tradition of the village." They pulled grandfather back out of the woods. They waited until it was dark. They brought him all the way back to the village. In secret, they kept him alive in their cottage there. Days passed, weeks passed, months passed, seasons passed. And yet the grandfather, he remained alive in their village, in their hut. No one else knew. But a time came when no rain fell. It was a time called a drought. No rain fell for season upon season, and because of that, the wheat crop failed. And in time, after 2 seasons, there were no kernels, there were no seeds of wheat. And the people now, they feared famine, they feared starvation. They knew that they would become destitute. No one knew what to do. But one day, Ivan, he knocked upon a door of one of the cottages. And a villager opened it and said, "Yes, Ivan, what is it?" And Ivan said, "This is what we must do. Take the handle of your brooms or your shovels and poke about the thatch of your roofs." For it was a village of wheat farmers, and all the roofs were thatched with wheat straw. And the villager, he did that. And then Ivan went to the next cottage, and the next, and the next, and he said, "This is what we must do. Take the handle of broom or shovel and poke in the thatch of your roof." And they did, and they watched. It was amazing. Because in the thatch of the roof were little kernels of wheat. And they fell and fell and fell upon each hut floor until it was like a granary. The people took those kernels of wheat and they replanted them. And in time when the rain came, the wheat grew again. And the people again had their food. They prospered. And finally they had a great feast, and they came together and they thanked Ivan for saving the village. And he said, "It wasn't me. It was my father. It was his knowledge that saved the village." They said, "Your father? You took him into the woods 2 years ago." He said, "I couldn't. I brought him home. He has lived with us in secret for all this time. But I tell you this much. It was only he who was old enough to remember that drought had happened before. It was only he who had the knowledge of what to do. It was his wisdom that saved us." The people began to think. They talked among themselves, and they decided perhaps it is time to change our ways. And so it was after that time. They decided that they would find a way to care for the elders, to give them all that they needed, to give them a place of honor and respect, and they did. And in time, the spirits of those elders, like kernels of wheat, they grew into a field, a harvest of wisdom and knowledge and patience and presence that stayed in this village to this very day. Oh, and by the way, remember the sled? They still have it. They pull the old people around the village just for fun now. It's the story of Ivan's sled. Thank you, and thank you for listening.
If the adults along the middle aisle hold hands and form a bridge, we can sing the children to the classroom. We hold you in our love as you go, as you go. May your heart be at peace as you go. To nurture the spark of your precious life, invite you now into a quiet time in the service. If you're comfortable, close your eyes, place your feet on the floor, uncross your arms, drop your shoulders, and make a very big exhale. Then begin your intentional breathing. 4 beats in slowly through your nose, 5 or 6 beats out through your mouth in a steady rhythm, creating peace and spaciousness as you move from the crown of your head to the soles of your feet, grounded on the earth. Complete another round or 2 of breathing, and then slowly come back to this space. Please remain seated and sing number 1048 in the teal hymnal, Ubi Caritas. The words will be on the screen. Mary will play it through once, and then we will sing. Wisdom keepers. Times of great transformation call for the presence of those who know the territory of darkness, difficulty, change, and renewal through hard-won experience and understanding. Storyteller Will Hornyak shares traditional stories that reveal how challenging times call forth the elders within culture and the elder spirit residing within us all.
Well, good morning, all. Good morning. It's great to be here. I am always grateful for the opportunity to share stories in this beautiful setting, and I really appreciate all the care that goes into creating these services, the beauty of the music, the flowers, the programming, everything. So thank you for letting me participate in this way. It's funny to see my name up there next to Wisdom Keeper. You know, it's like, I don't know about that. A lot of friends of mine would disagree, so, but I'm going to do my best. That's why I'm going to count on some stories and poems to offer some perspectives on wisdom keeping and also eldership. Part of my belief is that we all carry threads of wisdom. We carry a spirit of the elder. And I think that sometimes, there's certain seeds, they say, that only sprout after they've passed through fire. It takes that intensity for them to crack open. And I think that's true of the wisdom inside of us, too. Sometimes it takes very difficult moments, harrowing times, to crack open the wisdom that we hold and the knowledge that we hold. And I believe that we are in such times as that now, which is why I thought it would be a good idea to offer this stories around this particular theme. So here's a story that I've told here before. I've probably told all my stories here before, but one you might recognize, but I think it's so appropriate to the theme. It's from the White Mountain Apache tradition. And they say that in the long ago time, there was a woman who lived in a deep, deep cave in the White Mountains. And she was always at work she sat and she wove this beautiful, beautiful tapestry. And they say that Weaver Woman has been weaving this tapestry since the beginning of time. And without that tapestry of her weaving, there would be no grasses upon the earth. There would be no ripening corn. There would be no towering pine trees. There would be no vegetation anywhere, save for the beauty and the diligence of Weaver Woman. But you know, on occasion, she has to get up from her work. She gets up from her work and she puts her tapestry upon her chair. And then she walks over very slowly, for she's ancient, and she approaches a cauldron, this big cauldron. And she's been cooking this stew since the beginning of time. It's absolutely delicious. She's always adding stuff to it and stirring it. And they say because of her stew, there is nourishment in the world for body and soul and for heart. But what happens is as she leaves the tapestry and moves to the cauldron, there's a black dog just outside the cave. You know that black dog? He always knows when she's gone. And he steals in. And of course, what does he do? He tears some of the tapestry apart. And then she turns and comes back to the weaving and she says, "Oh, no, the black dog, he's been here again." And she shoos him away. And then she picks up the tapestry. And what does she do? She reweaves and reweaves again. And the White Mountain Apaches say that the interesting thing is that where she has rewoven, it's more beautiful, stronger than it's ever been. And in the end of the story, the White Mountain Apache, they say, all praise to Weaver Woman. And some praise to the black dog, too. So I tell this story for a couple reasons. I like this idea of weaving and wisdom because I think that all of us carry various strands of wisdom and knowledge. Through the lives we've lived, through our experiences, we have certain insights. Our very presence carries something. And as you bring your thread and I bring mine and they bring theirs, we weave together a tapestry of community. We weave together a tapestry of wholeness. It takes everybody to do this. One thing I like about the story, too, is that Weaver Woman understands that destruction, that difficulty, that pain, transition, damage is also part of life. And so even though she's, of course, disappointed, she's never paralyzed by anger or paralyzed by grief. She sits down and reweaves life back into life. And I think that's important, especially these days, to remember that her very understanding is not with the forms of things. She's not totally attached to the forms of things. She's so completely aligned with the cosmic power of the universe and the creative spirit of healing and renewal and vitality that she simply sits back to work again and does what she always does. You know, one of the reasons I like this story too is that I think that we live in a time now where the black dog is doing a lot of work, you know. Constantly, every day, parts of institutions are torn up. Communities, societies, individual lives and careers, they're torn up, they're ripped apart, you know. And so it's a time when it's very easy to get discouraged, and it can happen in a couple of ways. We can get paralyzed and afraid, or we can just check out completely, you know. But I like this example of Weaver Woman. She, of course, is disappointed. She's discouraged, but it doesn't stop her from sitting back down and weaving life into life. And so I always ask myself, what is the strand that I can bring? What is the strand that you bring? What is that essential part of your nature that is so important right now to weave life back into life? Another aspect of eldership and wisdom is just sheer presence. It's not active. It doesn't really do anything. But I notice when I'm around people that really carry the spirit of an elder, I just feel more at peace. I feel like all is well. And I wanted to read a little poem about that spirit of presence. It's called On Uselessness. And in our society of achievement and activity, I think it's important to remember the power of uselessness. On uselessness, It was an ancient tree, a gnarled trunk, a thick bark, unappealing to carpenters, impervious to flames, resistant to axes, utterly useless, and thereby allowed to stand. It was a monument to ice storms and lightning strikes, a rookery for ill-behaved crows. Its branches twisted up and out wildly, arching skyward in a dozen different directions, and then down, turning earthward to become a broad canopy of leaf and branch, a shelter to legions of buzzing, burrowing, flying, clawed creatures. Its stout, rough arms adorned with garlands of moss, its countless crooks and crannies draped in fern and lichen, where wind-blown soil had gathered. Countless children climbed into its welcoming arms. Lovers lay in its dappled shade. The old ones felt at peace in the presence of this elder. And poets wrote verses inspired by this gnarled root, utterly useless to the world and valuable beyond measure. So, one of the things I like about this poem is that the tree doesn't do anything, you know? And it simply is. But its presence is so powerful that those who come into its presence are changed, you know? And it's not striving to accomplish anything. It's past that, you know? And that's one thing I notice in the presence of elders. They're not trying any longer. Like, I appreciate Luna's comment about, my writing is terrible, but I'm doing it anyway, you know? To me, that's an elder move, you know? There's a certain amount of humility, a certain understanding that I am just here, right? Not perfect, right? All these nooks and crannies and scars and such and lightning strikes. But the tree is so utterly itself that it has this powerful, beautiful presence. You know? One aspect I feel, too, of the elders is that there's a generosity in eldership. This is the spirit that all of us contain. But the generosity is just simply being and allowing people to come and to be with us. Allow children to climb into its arms. Invite the lovers to come and lay in its shade. To simply be there, you know. And it's interesting because there's obstacles to being an elder in this world, especially in this society. The story that I told earlier on of Ivan and the sled, it seems like an archaic thought to think that we would abandon our elders in the woods to become food for the bears and the wolves. But it's also a metaphor because, of course, we warehouse and abandon older people all the time, don't we? I mean, elders are often isolated, far from the center of society, right? One way or another, they tend to get pushed to the edges. You know? In part because we are in a culture that worships youth, that worships activity, that worships achievement. And a lot of times older people are seen as just kind of being in the way. We have to work around them, you know? But the important thing, too, is to realize that it is having to work around them that's important. Eldership slows us down. Being around elders slows us down in a good way. But it's not often seen in the society that we live in. It's hard. I wanted to call your attention to a teacher. His name was Malidoma Somé. Have anybody ever heard of Malidoma? He was an African teacher from Burkina Faso, from the Dagara tribe. Interesting man. He was educated at Sorbonne in Paris, as well as being a tribal man, so he had a foot in two worlds, you know. And he taught a lot here in the States. He was invited by his tribe, the Dagara, to be an elder. And he said, it's not the glory road that you might think. Because in their tribe, what they do is you have to take all your clothes off and they cover you with ash, right? a reminder that you came from the dust you to return. And then they invite you to be an elder because the community decides who the elders are. They have a saying, gray hairs don't make the elder. You know, it's possible to be an older and not necessarily an elder. Right? So they invite certain people, and if you say yes, they cover you with ash, and then they put you in a hut in the dark all by yourself. And then one by one, people come, like over the next few days or the next week, and they come to the hut and they tell you everything that you have done that has ever offended them. Right? Not only that, you can't say anything. You can't say, but wait a minute, there's a whole other side. No. In fact, if you get all emotionally involved, they pull you out of the hut and say, thanks for trying, but you're not going to be an elder, you know? So you go through this thing because what they want to do in part is they realize that eldership and wisdom comes with humility and comes with understanding that you have given wounds. You have taken wounds. They want elders to be in touch with their own darkness and their own shadow, and that's in part what does that. There's a saying among the Dagara, too, that you know the elders by the limp they limp, meaning that they're no longer trying to be perfect. You know the elders by the mistakes, by the wounds that they carry. They say that elders are marked people, not marked like as a mafia hit kind of mark, you know, but marked as in you can see where they have been hit, where they have been wounded, where they have been hurt. And because of that, they're vulnerable. And because they're vulnerable, they're empathetic and compassionate. Right? People that don't realize their wounds or understand them have no empathy and have no compassion. And we have world leaders now that have no idea of their own woundedness, and because of that have very little empathy and no compassion. And as a result, we need to fill that in for them, you know. Very, very different idea from the traditional societies. They also say in Burkina Faso, among the Dagara, that eldership doesn't have anything to do with age, that there is an elder within youth as well. You know? And I remember years ago, I met a young man. He had been part of a gang for years in East LA. He got out of the gang, and his father was a drug addict. He took care of his father, and he was speaking before a community of men, and somebody asked him, how did you do that? How did you raise your father? Because he had, for years, he had taken care of his father. And he said, well, I imagined what it was like that I wanted to be, how I wanted to be raised. And then I just did that for my dad. And I thought, that's an elder, you know. Because sometimes we think of eldership and wisdom as having great ideas and knowledge, which is true. But also eldership and wisdom has to do with knowledge of the heart, oftentimes that comes to us through the experience of suffering and loss and the many small deaths that we make along the road of life. I wanted to tell you another little story. This one is from a famous rabbi, the Baal Shem Tov. And the Baal Shem Tov lived in Europe, in what would be present-day Romania, Hungary, and Transylvania. He lived in the 18th century, and he was a great teacher. He was one that was credited with what they called breaking the spell of intellectualism on Judaism. People were getting so carried away with the intellectual understanding of the Torah, they were forgetting the spirit of the law. And the Baal Shem Tov was a great teller of tales that explained how the spirit of the law actually worked in day-to-day life. But he knew much suffering because this was during an age of the pogroms, land clearings, burnings of villages, deaths of many Jewish people. And he had a saying, when the bonds that hold heaven and earth together are strained to the point of breaking, not even a prayer will help. Only stories can mend it. And I think what he means by that is that it's us together telling the stories of our deepest experiences that can help to provide healing and perspective. And one example of that came when his people were undergoing a very, very difficult time. Once again, there was a pogrom. Once again, they had to flee, and they knew not what to do. And he said, come into the synagogue and we will pray through the night. And they started to pray. And after an hour, he came in and he said, no, you don't understand. You need to pray from the very depths of your heart. You need to reveal everything that has ever happened to you. You need to tell all the stories, even the ones that you don't want to tell. And he left, and he came back an hour later. He says, I don't think you understand. I mean, you need to speak from the depth of your heart. The suffering you've known, the lies that you've told, the wounds you've inflicted, the wounds you've taken. And he went away again, and then he came back. And by now, people are starting to do this, and of course, they were weeping. They were crying. There was great grief. Tears were flowing everywhere. They were helping each other. They were talking in ways they had never spoken before. There was a palpable feel of grief in the room. And finally, they were so weary, they all went to sleep. And just as the sun rose, the Baal Shem Tov was walking among the people, looking at them. And one woke up, and he saw the Baal Shem Tov, and he said, Master, why? Why would you take us to this place of grief and lament and tears? And he said, for this reason, when the bonds that hold heaven and earth together are strained to the point of breaking, God hears only those words spoken from a broken heart. And I offer that at this time because, for one, they say a broken heart is the only kind worth having anyway, But also, it's that emotional honesty, it's that willingness to be vulnerable that also characterizes wisdom and eldership, And so that emotional honesty is just as essential as the intellectual honesty and gravitas that elders carry. I wanted to read you one of my favorite poems from the poet Naomi Sha'ib Nye. Anybody know Naomi? She's always, to me, carried the spirit of eldership. I had an opportunity to share a workshop with her one time, and never forget it. And to me, that's a poem that carries that spirit of honesty and vulnerability. It's called Kindness. Before you know what kindness really is, you must lose things. You must feel the future dissolve in a moment, like salt in a weakened broth. What you held in your hand, what you counted and carefully saved, all this must go, so you know how desolate the landscape can be. Between the regions of kindness, how you ride and ride, thinking the bus will never stop, the passengers eating maize and chicken will stare out the window forever. Before you learn the tender gravity of kindness, you must travel with the Indian in a white poncho who lies dead by the side of the road. You must see how this could be you, how he too was someone who journeyed through the night with plans and the simple breath that kept him alive. Before you know kindness as the deepest thing inside, you must know sorrow as the other deepest thing. You must wake up with sorrow. You must speak to it until your voice catches the thread of all sorrows and you see the size of the cloth. Then it is only kindness that makes sense anymore. Only kindness that ties your shoes. Only kindness that sends you out into the day to gaze at bread. Only kindness that raises its head from the crowd of the world to say, it is I you have been looking for. And then it goes with you everywhere, like a shadow or a friend. Kindness by Naomi Sha'ib Nye. Well, I wanted to finish with a song that was taught to me by Malidoma Somé. It's an honoring song of ancestors. And one of the best things about it, there's only 2 words in it. Right? And the only thing you have to remember when you're singing with me are 2 things, volume and enthusiasm. Okay? I'm always willing to sacrifice pitch and tune on the altar of volume and enthusiasm. Okay? And the 2 words are pura samane. You want to try that? Pura samane. And pura mamane. So Porasamene means to the ancestors, to all the male ancestors, and Puramamene is to all the female ancestors. So call to mind some wise ancestor that you know. And it could be someone in your own life, or it could be somebody from history. But it's a song where we realize that we have been blessed by the presence of many, many, many wise people. Some of whom are with us today, some of whom have passed on long, long ago. But it's a way of both honoring them and also asking them for help, right? Because what Malidoma Somé used to say was that the ancestors are never far away, but we have to contact them, you know? We have to make the call. And he said there's only a few things that can travel to that world. Songs are one of them. Songs can travel from this world to the other. Prayers can as well. Poems can, stories can, music can, you know? And so bring to mind some of those ancestors. And it's very simple. The song goes like this. And if you wouldn't mind, if you can, just stand for the song. Just listen to me sing it through twice. It's Purasamene, 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 oh, Purasamene, oh. And then Puramamene. Puramamene, 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 oh, Puramamene, oh. Just try it. If you get confused, sing louder. All right, so it starts out with Purasamene. Purasamene, 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 oh, Purasamene, oh, Puramamene, 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 oh, Puramamene, oh. For all the grandfathers, Purasamene, 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 oh, Purasamene, oh. For all the grandmothers, Puramamene, 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 oh, Puramamene, oh. One more time, all the way through, for all the ancestors. Purasamene, 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 oh, Purasamene, oh, Puramamene, 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 oh. Hold the last. Puramamene, oh. Thank you. So we have a little bit of time for comments, criticisms, questions, anything like that. Anybody wants to say?
Do we get out the ash?
Get out the ash. Yeah. I'm not going to make myself naked right here. That'd be a good idea. I want to get invited back. John?
I'm gonna get the microphone so we can
Oh, yeah.
pass it
You
around.
want to use?
Oh, the microphone, we have one of those.
Yeah, technology.
I wanted to start just when I am talking to people and they are expecting dog whistles and trying to figure out what tribe I'm a part of, it's the stories that remind them that they're talking to a human being and gets beyond the need to classify and categorize and look for this tension between opposites and reminds them that it's an illusion. So I just wanted to thank you for reminding us that stories can often tell more than what we think the truth can.
Thanks, John. I appreciate that. Yeah.
Hi.
Hello.
I guess I'll stand up. I really like the idea of the Weaver woman because chaos is hard, but it's also ripe for change. So if we want this better world, we've got to break the BS of the old one. So even though it's really scary now, I'm also so freaking excited because I see so many people standing up to build what's better, because that wasn't working. So that's my new focus, is building a better ship, because this one's going down.
Thank you. I appreciated your honesty earlier when you spoke, too, about, my sister's crazy and this is what's going on. And it's like, absolutely, but it's true. It's like, out of chaos comes cosmos, And cosmos is the beautiful, natural, ordered, universe in which we do live, and chaos is a part of it. So, Cynthia.
Yes, when you were telling the story of Weaver Woman, I grew up in Arizona and heard a lot of the Native American stories. And there was one that has always stuck with me, and that's of the Navajo weavers. They can weave these rugs to perfection, no errors, but they always make an intentional error so that their soul is not trapped in this product.
Right.
And I think that's
Exactly.
that's really important.
Exactly.
You know.
It's a little bit connected with what Malidoma Somé said about the elders are no longer trying to mask their wound or hide their limp, because that's a place for us to enter into their lives, So.
I had a couple of questions. I was not here at the very beginning, but I'm curious about your background. Like, what helped you learn about all these different stories and leaders, and then also what keeps you optimistic? Like the Weaver thing is, there's optimism in that, but also what personally keeps you optimistic?
That's a great question. I think one of the things that keeps me optimistic is being connected to older stories and poems and traditions. We realize that this shit has happened before in different ways. It's different now, but human beings are incredibly intuitive and resourceful. And a lot of, myths in particular come from experiences of very, very strange and difficult times, and we are in very strange and difficult times, right? So myths, I think, provide strategies. They provide ways of proceeding at such times as these. One thing that keeps me optimistic too is some of my teachers, like Michael Meade, for example, is a great teacher. James Hillman, a former Jungian analyst, he has since passed, was a great teacher. Just looking out at the world and seeing examples of incredible leadership and humility and goodness keeps me optimistic. Being part of a community like this as well. So, also, I spend time in nature. I find that really important. I love being in Oregon, and I find that I can drink deeply from the nourishment. There's a saying, once again, among the Dagara, you can't change this world or improve this world if you always stay in this world. And what they mean by that is that you need to cross the threshold from the 9-to-5 waking world of form to get into the world of dream, into the world of story, poetry, music, and be refreshed by that, and then come back and bring that refreshment and vitality to this world, right? Because it's possible to get exhausted, as we all know, and get depressed. So I don't know if I've answered your questions, but those are some things that keep me optimistic and keep me going. So.
Hi. I thought about two elders, and I'm grateful that you gave me a chance to think about two elders. Just outside my back fence, there's a red alder that's so big that I can't get my arms around it. And I almost cut it down a couple years ago because it's old and it's dying and it's going to drop in my yard and break stuff. And when it came down to it, I couldn't. I was like, no, that tree has to stay.
Nice.
And way back when, I was lucky to have a teacher who, I was doing a class like learning to be a drug counselor. And she was such a profound person in my life in terms of focusing me on being client-centered, which is a buzzwordy thing to say, but looking at the person that needs to do the work, and that person knows what they need to do and get out of the way. Is kind of what I learned from her. So thanks for bringing both of those entities up in my mind.
Thanks for reminding us of the elders in your own life, too, including the tree. That's great. Oh, you know, it reminded me of that thing on uselessness. Some of you know the poet Seamus Heaney, a great Irish poet. And they were interviewing him one time when he was very old. And they said, what's the value of poetry? He goes, poetry? He goes, it's utterly useless, really. You could live your whole life without needing a poem, you know. It's not like food or water. He said, but then again, it just might save your life. Right? So there's a difference between uselessness and being useful and value, right? We don't have to achieve something to be valuable. Value is inherent in who we are, and sometimes I forget that. I want to rest on my achievements or look what I'm doing, but sometimes just to be at home in the power of our presence is important. That's good. It's probably looking at you too. Luna.
I was gonna say, this is working. It was really serendipitous, the things that you chose to talk about today, because one of the things that I'm exploring in this terrible, terrible play that I'm writing, which is based off of my ridiculous and television episodically written life, is like how lack of humility and how acceptance of chaos and acceptance of change ends up being the downfall, not just of the people who refuse to yield to the change, but also to the people who are swept up in it. And so for me, exploring that as it relates to my own life, it was really lovely to see that concept represented by someone who is literally my elder. Because resistance to change and resistance to, you know, the experience of the chaos and the just fortuitousness and strangeness of the universe and life as we know it is this thing that gets us all in the end. I have an aunt who always says we make plans and God laughs.
Yeah.
And I think that exists because sometimes the plans we make aren't even the things that we're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, yeah. You know, it's an excellent point about change, because if change was easy, more of us would do it. And I often wonder, why is it so hard? And it's because, you know, I have this ego that thinks that it's going to die if it changes. And it is, you know. It's going to transform anyway. But it always needs to get the message that there's something larger than it that's in control of the world. And if I learn to yield to that, there's an Irish saying which I love, which if you want to live a long life, die in the middle of it. Right? The idea being that there are many deaths in life, many transitions. You know, I went through a divorce. That's a transition. My parents died. That felt like a death. I had an older sister that died in an auto accident. That was a death, right? So there are many deaths that come along that we submit to. And I think if we truly grieve them, it does kind of water the roots of our own compassion. But it also, I think that gives us a way of understanding when others are in pain or when the world is in pain. I don't turn away from it, you know, like you were saying about drug and alcohol counseling, you know. Oftentimes the people that have had the most difficulty are the great healers of the world. So.
They have presence. They're there
Truly.
without judging. They're just
Exactly.
taking in what's said.
Right. That takes something, just to listen and listen and listen and, you know, let the change work.
Thank you again, Will, for your
Jeanne.
stories
Thank you.
and things. Just one comment. The story about the useless tree reminded me of Shel Silverstein's story,
Yeah.
The Giving Tree.
Yeah.
I hear other people agreeing.
That's right. Good. Thank you, everybody. It's been an honor to be here. Appreciate it. What's that? Oh, which is yours?
Oops. My pants are too long. So please rise as you are willing and able in body and spirit for Peace of the River. The words will be on the screen. Each week, we take an offering to support this church and to share with a community nonprofit. Through August, half of our offering will go to NAYA, Native American Youth and Family Center, which serves Native Americans from across the Portland metropolitan area. Their aim is to enhance the diverse strengths of youth and families in partnership with the community through cultural identity and education. They promote healthy living through positive alternatives to high-risk behaviors and promote the values of sobriety, family stability, culture, active lifestyles, and education. Our congregation is involved in several projects with NAYA, and we encourage you to check pedals or to contact Karen Pyle for ways to join in this partnership. If you are attending online, you may donate by visiting our website and clicking the donate button, or you may scan the QR code on the screen. If you are here for the first time, we invite you to let the basket pass and truly be our guest. The gifts of the congregation will now be most gratefully received. Please remain seated and sing our song of gratitude, number 1010 in the teal hymnal, We Give Thanks. Now we will extinguish the chalice. May our wisdom show itself, by Philip Randall Giles. Now may our wisdom show itself in compassion and understanding, and may the fruits of the Spirit be apparent in our lives. Thank you so much, Mary. Such beautiful music today. I have some announcements. The summer sign-up sheets on the front bulletin board need everything. Please talk to Rolf today. Sign up. The Bird Alliance, formerly known as the Audubon Society, is partnering with Portland Parks on guided birdsong walks in local parks. This week's hike is Wilkes Park from 7 to 9 on Tuesday, May 20th. Note the changes in the date and time from our regular walks. After that, there will be breakfast at Elmer's in Park Rose. This meetup is at Wilkes City Park on Northeast 154th. Park along 154th at 7 a.m. And you can contact the hike organizer, Katie Larsel, for more information. Keene has an announcement.
Some of this I could have done in joys and concerns, but I'm going to start with that. 8 to 10 people here working Saturday with no real conflicts. Everything went well. We sorted through years and years and years and years of stuff. And we're having a potluck where we give away years and years and years and years of stuff in order to make room for the daycare that's going to be coming in. And for those people who have sacrificed some of their area and those people who have made adjustments in their life to make this happen, our appreciation. In the back, you have a whole row of bookcases. Every book is going on those cases is going away. If you think they should be saved as a heirloom in the church, bring them to Reverend Rodman and express your opinion. If you think you just want them on your bookshelf, take them home. We need them gone. And if they're not gone this week, they will go away this week. The bookshelves that hold them, if you don't have bookshelves at home and that's the reason you're not getting books, they're available also. So just take a sticky note, put your name on it, put your phone number on it, and I will arrange to get in touch with you to get it delivered. All right? So we need those things to be gone, the bookshelves and the books. In the storage room, which is the back left room, there's all kinds of stuff on the floor, all scattered around in there. That room will be cleared out. Everything there is designated as disappeared. So we need you to go back and do some garage sailing today. The prices are good. It's pack it out, take it home. And we, again, save me the trouble. I don't want to have to haul it to Goodwill or the dump or put it in the dumpster. I just want it gone. And so we will do that this week. If it's still there, those things will not be there next week. So if there's anything that you want, take it. If there's anything you think the church should absolutely save, defend it. Do you have any questions?
I have a question. I don't understand, the books don't seem like they take up very much space.
The contract gives that space during the week to the daycare. And so we may be able to say, and some of them have moved into Reverend Robin's office, the ones that she thought we really needed to keep. And the others have been there and quite honestly get very little use and very little play. So if you want to try and build up a new shelf of things that people are interested in, we can talk about that. But right now, the space is the issue. We are getting a large influx of resource from this that will allow the church to stay afloat. And that is the priority right now, to set up a very fluid and amiable relationship with the daycare, I think, is the primary thing. I have not been part of that conversation, but that is really what we're trying to do, is set up a long-term working relationship with everybody in that group.
We have we've signed a 3-year contract with the daycare. They will not keep us afloat. We'll be getting about $3,000 a month from them for the use of that space. It will help keep us.
It will help keep us afloat. Yeah. But without it, it would be very difficult to keep us afloat. Let's put it that way. Just looking at the numbers, looking at the budget, looking at what is coming in and what we have felt comfortable.
Very glad that they wanted to use that space.
What we have felt comfortable pledging as a community. So during coffee, that is your task and your job. Get rid of that stuff.
Thank you. Thank you. We will now do the unison benediction, which we've been doing every Sunday for a while now, so some of us may have it memorized. There we go. Go out into the world in peace. Have courage. Hold on to what is good. Return to no person evil for evil. Strengthen the faint-hearted. Support the weak. Help the suffering. Honor all beings. the service has ended, and I want to thank everybody who took a part today. Will Hornyak, Mary at the piano, John in the back, and Ayla, and our greeters, Lois and Eric, and Cynthia and Iris, who helped with the collection. Thank you all so much, and thank you all for being here. So nice to see so many faces.